Hey, I'm Bree, and this is my sister Jules. I'm an English teacher.
And I have indigestion.
And together, we drink wine as we unpack the brilliant writing of the hit 90s sitcom, Boy Meets World.
Cheers!
What are we drinking?
Rosé all day, baby. This one is called
Rose.
Ruza. Ruza Rose all day.
And our last name is Rosa, guys. Don't look us up and try to murder us.
You say my name every episode.
I do? Oh, yeah. Theme song credit goes too.
And you say it so crispily, too. Julia Rosa.
Like an AI
Just like
robot voice.
Link my LinkedIn, why don't you?
Spell
out the URL.
Let's taste it. Oh, no.
Orangey.
Oh, I hate it so much.
Orange, you glad you're drinking a rosé?
I'm so not glad. Oh, this is the worst one we've ever done.
Oh, do you really think so?
I really think so. Oh, no. It tastes like really bad salad dressing that was already bad before it was bottled, but has also like soaked up the microplastics of the bottle and tastes even worse.
Oh, well, before I tell you what the aromas are, what fruits do you think are you supposed to be getting?
What fruits do I think I'm supposed to be getting? No.
No fruits. None fruit.
Oh, it tastes like unripe fruit. You know, like a sour strawberry that like
Sour
zings
plum.
the sides of your mouth.
Okay, yeah. Strawberry is one of the fruits.
Okay.
It's strawberry, cherry, and raspberry.
Yeah, it's all those, but unripe. What do you think?
I couldn't decipher what fruit, but I definitely get like the tartness of an unripe fruit. I don't hate it.
Oh my God, it literally says the grapes were picked early. Ruza takes a fresh California craft approach to a French classic. To retain freshness and purity, the grapes were picked early and taken directly to the press. The result is salad dressing.
I don't hate it, but I'm really happy I took a Pepsid before this.
Yeah, like it tastes like it's gonna upset you.
It's got a refreshing aftertaste for me. I find it quite refreshing. I have my bottle on ice. To me, it's easy drinking, except for the whole heartburn thing.
It's easy drinking, except it burns.
It's easy drinking until it goes down my esophagus, and then it feels like flames.
So we watched season 2, episode 7, called Wake Up Little Cory. Interesting title. My favorite is the synopsis, though. Literature comes alive for Cory. Air date, 4 days before you were born, November 4th, 1994.
Oh my gosh. I was ready to come out.
Yeah. Directed by David Traynor. Viewers 18.8 million. What were your first impressions?
I was pleasantly surprised at how early we were getting into themes of sex.
Yeah. This episode, I got very excited when I saw that it was finally this episode because the inspiration for this podcast came when I was rewatching Boy Meets World. At this point, it was like a few years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I have so many things to say. This particular episode, I was like, oh my God, I will be honest with you, I was envisioning doing this podcast with my coworker, Brian, who by this point, as you guys are listening to this episode, have heard Brian on an episode with me. We do these like extra add-on side, what are we calling them? Chasers, like chaser episodes where we drink Mike's Hard Lemonade. I imagined doing the podcast with him when I first thought of doing this podcast because I thought two English teachers going back and forth about educational policy, educational practice, having like different approaches to content in the classroom. I thought it would be fun to talk to him about it. So I'm excited to get into it with you, but I absolutely envisioned doing another chaser with Brian about this episode because this was a big one for me in inspiring me to even start this podcast in the first place. I found it fascinating the way that yet again, we saw Feeney and Turner having opposite approaches to education. And Feeney represents the classic older generation, approaching the kids with a little more authoritarianism and a little more conservatism. And then Turner approaching, the classroom with a progressive mindset, just that younger new teacher, radical approach to education that's like a little more trusting of the students, right? But perhaps problematic in some ways, as we saw in this episode. I critique Turner a little more, I think, but it's because I assume everyone critiques Feeney, because I think that the norm is that Feeney is, outdated and overbearing, and, we don't do that anymore. So I think kind of it's on display that Turner's doing the right thing. He's doing the thing that resonates with students and sticks with them. And so I tend to try to defend Feeney a little more just to even the scales out a bit. But I mean, truth be told, I definitely have more of Turner's approach than Feeney's. But
yeah. Well, it seems like from what we've seen so far with their so-called rivalry, for lack of a better word, they seem to both be right in their approach. So to your point, right, like we tend to want to side with Turner, and like the kids certainly do. But in the way that the episodes play out, it's interesting to see that you can kind of get something from both of them. Like there's something to be said by both styles of teaching.
Totally. So we start off in the classroom, and they're reading Much Ado About Nothing. I have a feeling you've not read it.
I actually didn't read it.
Got excited for a second. I was like, you did. The thing I like about Shakespeare is the more you read Shakespeare, the more you see repeated themes throughout. So Much Ado is silly and fun. It's one of his comedies. There's a scene in Much Ado where there are these two characters that I like to imagine as like the Romeo and Juliet. Like they're young, they fall in love at first sight. The girl, her name is Hero. She is like a presumed virgin. Every girl, unmarried, it was assumed, right? She was a virgin until she got married. In the play, this conniving, scheming guy basically sets up the young bachelor by having his friend have sex with Hero's like maid, who kind of is dressed like Hero. And so the young bachelor, who's about to get married, looks up and sees what he believes to be his fiance having sex with this other guy. Obviously it's not her, and there's all this drama, and then in the end, like, it's discovered that it wasn't actually her, and then they get married and they live happily ever after and everything's fine. But in the play, when he believes that she has like cheated on him, there's no possible way that they can get married because she is no longer a virgin, right?
She needs to wear a big A on her chest.
Yeah, essentially,
herself.
Right? Even though they're not married, like they were, betrothed to be married, and so they might as well have been. Also, she was a woman. So my first impression of this episode includes, even though I had already just started going into the into the recap, included disappointment at how little it was addressed, that there is this double standard.
Yes. That is something that that's like one of the first things I said after I watched the episode yesterday. It was almost assumed that Topanga was being ridiculed. Like they didn't address it. It was like assumed, which in my head means that that's normal.
Yeah.
And not like it's normal and like, I'm using air quotes, okay, that she is being, ridiculed for having sex, and yet Cory's the man. And obviously, like, that's clear, but the fact that they didn't address that at all, and like, in the end, he clears her good name. It's like, well, her name was never bad to begin with. Like, they don't address that at all.
And she, the way she handled it, I was so disappointed. I really was excited for the scene at the end in the kitchen where Cory's parents walk upstairs and then Topanga comes in. And I was like, oh, she's going to say something good. And I was immediately reminded that the writers take a big turn with Topanga and turn her into someone that is not consistent with who she is at the beginning of the show. And this is a big hinge episode for me, where she's like turned into this very like conservative thinking young woman who, I don't know, know, she just kind of like buys into the assumptions that men have about women, and she doesn't challenge them at all. And she just kind of tries to operate within them. So last episode, when Cory kisses her, she's like, you are a wolf. And then in this episode, in that kitchen scene, like you said, like she basically is like, what I want is for my name to be cleared. And sorry, I skipped forward. The first thing she does is she's like, all right, you want to be the man? Take me, have me. You said you wanted to, so why don't you just do it? And she basically like offers up her body to him, which I wanted your opinion on, because I wasn't sure if it was empowering or if it was.
I thought it was empowering in that I got the sense that like she's in control here because she's owning it, and he was not, and he was not being truthful, and he was not willing to be truthful because he felt like his popularity meant more than maintaining a friendship. And so she's like, you want to lie? Like, own that lie. Like, let's go. That was her way of provoking him into being honest with himself. I didn't take that as her demeaning herself for it.
Yeah, no, I want to be very clear. I don't want anyone to think that me thinking Topanga being ready or willing to have sex is demeaning herself in any way. I guess she knew that he wasn't ready. So she knew that she could put herself out there like that and he would never take her up on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. That's what I got. I think she knows that that's not him, and she wants him to like be honest.
I think the writers might have thought they were actually writing a very empowered woman, because she's not like cowering and weak and going like, oh, everybody thinks that you had sex with me and I didn't, and I don't want them to, and like I'm not ready, and like she's like, all right, yeah, you want to tell everyone we had sex, then why don't we actually do it? Or like, I guess I just wanted something different. Like I just wanted her to say out loud, it's so ridiculous. It's such a double standard, like
right. And also I think the writer's not showing her quote name being slandered by like getting made fun of or like people calling her a whore or insinuating that she's a whore. By not showing that happening, that tells us that that's what Topanga thinks of herself, and that's what she thinks of women who have sex,
right?
Which completely goes against her character.
Yes.
Whereas like this character in season 1 would have been like, what is sex even?
You're so right. That's probably what it was. It was us not seeing the double standard playing out, us only seeing her assume it and not challenge it, but accept it to be true and then operate from that assumption, right? Like from there.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, why? Why is this where she's going with it? Why is she saying, all right, let's do it? Like it is in itself, I don't hate that, but I just was like, this isn't where I want this to go. I want it to be somewhere else, So we start off in the classroom and they're reading Much Ado. Turner writes on the board, love, sex, and slander, which, by the way, they're in 7th grade. I want to remind everyone in case we forgot, they're in 7th grade. And I would not write love, sex, and slander on the board in a 7th grade classroom. I just finished The House of the Spirits with my sophomores, and we could not have mature conversations about the sex in that book. And they're in 10th grade. So, yeah. And like Much Ado is not really scandalous in that way. Like there isn't like, sex. Like The House of the Spirits I would absolutely not read with 7th grade. And I like sometimes even wonder if it's right for my 4th quarter 10th graders. They're about to be 11th graders. Like I'm like, maybe this is for like seniors. Point is, this was quite shocking to me.
Quite shocking. And what felt unrealistic was the class being bored about talking about sex.
Totally.
That was super unrealistic.
100%. The minute S and E and X were put on the board next to each other, even if it was part of another bigger word, they would have been chuckling.
You're so right.
Turner says, even though Much Ado About Nothing was written 400 years ago, Shakespeare has captured raw human emotion in a way that is still riveting today. Kind of. That play is it's a little bit more silly than maybe the other plays that do explore raw human emotion, but fair. I mean, he certainly captures the double standard. And Turner says, you know, he still has us glued to our seats. And then Sean falls out of his seat because he's been asleep. And Turner's like, come on, you got this innocent young girl and somebody says that she slept with this other guy, right? And her reputation is shot and we think she's killed herself. Yes, I forgot that part. So she faints and she kind of goes into like a fake death. This is why it reminds me of Romeo and Juliet.
Well, I think her parents keep her. I read the clip notes, by the way. Didn't her parents like not confirm or deny that she was dead because they wanted to clear her name? So they kind of just kept her in hiding until they could figure out what to do next.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was the only option.
Yeah.
But also, sex with someone else, so you should die.
Well, it's also so wild to be like, it's so, first of all, so petty to be at the altar and then your soon-to-be husband's like, and she cheated on me, everyone. And then it's also wild to faint as a result of hearing that. Girl, get up.
Turner's like, where else are you going to find this, you know, juicy stuff? Topanga's like, Melrose Place. Sean says NYPD Blue. Cory says Barney. And then he says, my sister says he's gotten edgier. I don't know. That was a silly joke. Topanga is like, Mr. Turner, we just can't relate to these characters at all. That was so unlike her. This was the first taste for me where I was like, wow, we're really getting like new Topanga here. Very different character. Turner says, why not? And Sean says, because nobody acts like this, which is kind of true. It is a little bit of a crazy play. And Cory's like, just because some guy says something about some girl, the girl wants to kill herself over it. Again, she fainted, like, but I guess she kind of also probably did that thing where she was like, I'm just not going to wake up so I can avoid all of this.
Yeah.
So Turner's like, you're right. Cory's like, I'm right. Turner says, no, you're exactly right. I love this line. Cory goes, so am I done with my education? Can I go? Turner's like, in Shakespeare's day, the play's the thing. The play's the thing. Remember? That was the name of the episode about Hamlet. It was called The Play's the Thing.
Ah, yes.
And it was a reference to the line from Hamlet, the play is the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. So he says, now in our day, I guess the thing is TV. So maybe we should put ourselves on TV and ask ourselves what we think about love, sex, and slander. And Cory says, you mean interview each other? Sean's like, kind of like a documentary. Turner goes, exactly. School's got video equipment. Let's wear it out. Interview your friends, your families, and each other. Let's just see who's got the more mature attitudes, Shakespeare or us? And Cory says, us. And Turner says, really? Okay, my mature young friends. Pick partners. And then he goes, boy-girl partners? Ew. I did not like that.
Wait, who said that?
Turner specifically said boy-girl partners, which part of me does get it because it's like kind of in the way that I think that all health classes should have like mixed gender health classes. I do think that Turner's idea was probably let's not have like one perspective on this stuff. Like let's get like mixed perspectives, which I get.
Yeah,
but,
I think that's what he was probably getting at.
It just felt like heteronormative and weird to me.
Sure.
But obviously it also sets us up for Cory and Topanga to be a pair. So they start interviewing people and filming them with old school video equipment that the school had, which I was like, oh, remember when public schools had budgets? We get a scene change. It's Turner's class after the class has left and he's clearing the board. And it had said love, sex, and slander. And he just erases slander. And then it just says love and sex on the board. And he gets interrupted by Feeney. And I felt the anxiety of that because if I was a teacher and I had the word sex on the board and like my boss came in, I'd be like, hi, as I'm like erasing it.
I thought he was going to do that.
No, he left it.
Yeah.
And Feeney's like, Mr. Turner, what's new? Turner goes, what's new? And Feeney goes, yes. What's happening? What's shaking? What's up? Turner says, oh, you know, teaching the kids, molding young minds. What have you heard? Feeney says, the word in the halls is that you have abandoned the teaching of English in favor of sex, lies, and videotape. His choice of words is just
Videotape.
whoever writes for him. Turner's like, oh, well, you know, we give them these books that have these classic scenes of romance, yet we have no idea what's going on in their heads about sex and love. I saw the issues with this immediately. Like, I was very much on Feeney's side. I was like, no, bad idea. Don't hand them video cameras and tell them to go talk about sex. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, you don't want that documented.
No, they're not mature enough. Their brains are not developed enough. Like, talk about all the issues that kids are having now with putting themselves out on the internet. Like, I'm so glad that my life was not documented at that age and put on the internet, because I would be so embarrassed. And like, he's basically handing them video cameras and going, here, film you stumbling through figuring out adolescence and sex and hormones. Crazy. So Feeney's response is, oh, neither do they, Mr. Turner. You are fueling a fire you should be putting out. You have given them a video camera and a license to talk to each other openly about sex. That's growing up too fast. This isn't our place.
I agree that it's not their place. Yeah, I think in general throughout this episode, I'm certainly more Feeney's side of like not on school property. Just a blanket statement.
So Turner says, well, it's our place to show them that classic literature still applies. Feeney says, show them by, teaching them.
Ouch.
And Turner says, well, I think I can teach them better if they make the connections themselves. And Feeney says, Mr. Turner, in the matter of sex, I prefer they make no connection until they are out of our jurisdiction. And Turner says, well, don't you think that thinking is a little antiquated, George? And Feeney says, I prefer to think of it as classic. And Turner says, it's just a little project. I think it'll be okay. And Feeney says, that's what Dr. Frankenstein said to all the curious villagers about his little project. Another good literary reference for us. And so he exits. We get a scene change, and Cory and Topanga are in the middle of filming the project. Cory, is interviewing Topanga, and he asks her how she feels about sex. And Topanga says, me? Oh, well, some say sex. Great, anywhere, anytime. And Cory says, who says that? And Topanga says, every boy in the world. And Cory says, oh, yeah. And Topanga said, to boys, let's face it, sex is just a goal. It's something they're after, and they're not really sure why. I think sex is a part of a special kind of love that you feel for a very special person.
Well, first of all, I thought it was adorable that the entire time Cory would not say sex. He just was like, that thing that we're talking about, this love and the other thing. It was so cute.
It was very cute. Yeah, I didn't even realize that he never said it in the whole episode.
Yeah, he really didn't. He did say at one point sex, but other than that, he refused to say it. Coming from Topanga, that to me felt appropriate. I don't know. What do you think?
That was like her old character coming through a little bit more, which I was pleased about. I worry about this messaging in TV for kids, right? Like if I'm a boy and I'm watching Boy Meets World and I hear a character say, to boys, sex is a goal and they're after it and they're not sure why. And I hear Eric say things that imply that it's normal and natural for boys to just want sex or like just go after sex. I will probably start believing that that's how I'm supposed to feel. And like any natural urge I have, I'll just be like, oh, this is great. I'm feeling like I'm supposed to feel. I'm feeling like a boy. And boys are supposed to feel sexually attracted to girls. And they're supposed to like try to do something about it too. Like they're supposed to try to go after girls and chase them. And girls are the gatekeepers of sexual acts. And I'm the sort of protagonist. Like I'm driving forward and trying to make sex happen, and girls are the antagonists, and they're supposed to kind of like stop me or give me the green light to go forward. Yeah. And I just don't like the normalizing of that. I think about boys who don't think that way or feel that way, right? And Cory is one of them, which is why this show is complicated, right? In a beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but he comes around though, right? Like our protagonist comes around and thinks differently than the norm, and that's a consistent theme overall. Is like these status quos, these lunch tables, if you will, of how to act, and Cory is consistently being authentically himself, and I think that's a message that is consistent through and through.
These lunch tables of how to act. I like that. What do you mean by that?
You could be a jock, you could be a nerd, right? There's lots of different things you can be, and the question for Cory that's a consistent theme is like, who are you? Like, and he's constantly adapting to this idea of like, you need to be this specific thing to be cool, to be popular, to be liked, to be accepted, or you could just be yourself. And time and time again, we're seeing him choose himself over the pressures of peers and school.
When Topanga says that, Cory's just like, yeah, fine, all right. And then he goes off and he interviews Joey the rat. And Joey the rat.
Okay. Yeah. Every time we talk about Joey, we just got to say Joey the rat. We have to.
Joey the rat. So Joey the rat says, okay, sex is very beautiful, especially within the confines of a loving, monogamous relationship, preferably marriage. And Cory's like, that's really nice. And Joey goes, hey, thanks. Is it all right if I say hi to my kids? The audience loved that joke.
They did.
They laughed so hard. Cut to later in the video, Topanga is talking to the camera and she says, how do you know if you're in love? And she holds the microphone to Sean, who's standing next to her. And Sean says, well, love is the most amazing, rare, and precious thing in the world. And Topanga says, have you ever fallen in love? And Sean says, 5 times a day. So then we get Harley. Baboom. Joey tells me that you're shooting a documentary in my hallway. Did I say you could shoot a documentary in my hallway? Cory's like, I could pay you or you could be in the film. And then Harley ends up in the film. Topanga asks Feeney what he thinks. Hi, Mr. Feeney. Do you have an opinion on love and sex? And Feeney says, yes, my opinion is not on school property. Be careful with that valuable equipment. Then we have Cory asking Turner, what's more important? Love or, the other thing. And Turner says love. And he says it very confidently. Love. Love is the most important thing in the world, Matthews. And love is the only thing that makes sex worth having. And Cory says, have you ever been in love? And Turner says, not yet. Now watching it as an adult and an English teacher and like around the same age as he probably is, I was like, oh.
I was like, Turner, you've never been in love, you stud.
Right? It was literally me.
You're like, I'd love you.
Literally, I was like, we can fix that. But I also didn't believe his character wouldn't have ever been in love.
Yeah.
I don't believe you can become an English teacher and never have been in love.
Yeah.
It's like a prereq.
I find it hard to believe too. But I love that Cory catches him with the next line that he says.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite part. I actually laughed out loud for this part. So Cory goes, have you ever had, the other thing? And Turner's like, what? And Cory goes, have you ever had, because you said you've never been in love. And if you had, when you weren't in love, then, must have not been very good. And I was like, Cory, you're going way too far with this. And Turner's like, who are you, Mike Wallace?
Yeah.
This is
talking
crazy.
About your sex life.
I'd be so fired.
Yeah. That's the point where he should have been like, and we're stopping this homework assignment. Give me the camera. We are deleting all of this footage.
In my deepest heart of hearts, like where I actually operate in like my true self on the inside, I actually do think it's kind of sad that there's a huge gap between kids and adults now because adults, I think it's a good thing that we have set more boundaries between kids and adults in order to protect kids from sexual assault.
And
just
grooming.
Period, full stop. But I do think kids are missing out on the important lessons that adults and older people in general can teach them by having a little more openness about sex and just talking about sex with older people. Part of me kind of gets where Turner was coming from, but the much louder part of me is like, no. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. So then Cory's interviewing Eric. He's being silly. And then he interviews his parents. And this is where we get the moment where his parents kind of brush past the fact that this is a crazy assignment. Cory says, okay, look, here's the deal. I need you guys to be very mature about this and talk about, sex. And Amy says, on camera? And Cory says, it's for school. And Alan says, what the heck are they teaching you? And Amy says, I'll go first. I'll be very direct. Sex is like voting. It's a privilege that you may choose to exercise when you're old enough. And Alan says, go on. And Amy says, and you don't want to vote for somebody you haven't known for a really long time or have strong feelings for because you may be stuck with that person for quite a while. What did you think about that?
I thought that was eerily accurate if you're thinking that you should only be having sex with like somebody that you would want to be with forever. And then the fear of getting pregnant was really funny.
I thought that was a crazy analogy. I was like, what?
Right. Because like never, it's such a weird analogy because like never have I ever been aroused by politics or voting. So why would I ever put the two together?
Well, that's why it was funny because she was trying to keep it as boring as possible.
As diplomatic as possible. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. And then Alan chimes in. Yes, sex is like voting. You go behind a curtain, do your thing, and then you get to do it again in 4 years.
That was great.
So then we're back at the school and Cory and Topanga are in the editing room, which I found really interesting for a lot of reasons. I was like, oh my God, look, this is what it used to be like for kids to edit videos. Like now they just do it on their phone in 2 seconds. It was this big room. It had all these bleeps and bloops and buttons and switches and knobs and lights. And I was like, oh my God. But also I was like, how are all of the kids in the class using this room to edit their, like, shouldn't they all be signing up for space and time and like freaking out because the deadline's approaching and they can't get space in the room to edit, like,
Yeah, there's no way they're the only students in the whole school that need the editing room that day.
Right? Maybe that's why they're there so late. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they're editing and Cory makes an edit that basically shows Topanga, answering the question, Topanga, how do you feel about sex? With great, anywhere, anytime. So she like goes to choke him. She's like, I'm going to kill you. And Cory's like, you can't kill me. I'm half your grade. So Topanga decides that they need more time to edit. So she calls home and lies so easily about being at Cory's house for dinner. So she tells her parents, I'm going to stay at Cory's.
Cory was shook. He was like, you lied to your parents? You can do that?
He was shook and he did a great job acting because you could see that he was shook, but then he tried to play it cool and he was like pretty smooth. Now watch the king. And he calls his mom and he's like, hi mom, I'm at Cory's. And then he's like, oh.
I feel like that's something you would do. But you wouldn't even do that. You would because you couldn't lie. But if you tried, you would mess it up immediately.
Couldn't lie. Couldn't do it. I'm Cory to a T. So,
but also, okay, this I know they needed to like set us up for them being stuck there overnight, but like to me it was unbelievable that they would lie and say that they were at each other's house when they could easily just say, we are at school late to do this project, pick us up later.
Agree.
Like there was no reason, like their parents would have let them stay there. So anyway.
Yep. Agree.
I don't know. It bothered me.
We needed to juicy up the plot. Mm-hmm. Juice up the plot.
Didn't this remind you of Gilmore Girls?
Oh, when they fell asleep on Patty's Patty's yoga
Miss
studio.
Patty's yoga studio. Scandal.
That was a great episode. So this is when Topanga starts to fall asleep, and the last shot we see of him is like his eyes are clearly closing as he's editing this documentary while Topanga has like fallen asleep on the floor. So then we cut to the living room and Amy is going to sleep. Amy asks, honey, I called Topanga's parents and there's no answer. And Alan's like, maybe they're voting. So she asks him to wait up. Side note, do you remember first learning what sex was?
Yeah, you taught me.
Did I?
You did.
Oh my God, when and where and why?
So you were great about it because you were so serious and matter of fact about it. I don't know what triggered it, but I do remember that I was in 5th grade and you were like, sit down. And you started, you should hear this too. And you were like, you need to know this. And then you literally just started talking like about the biology of it because you were studying biology and you were just like, this is what happens. Okay, goodbye. And that was it. And I was like, honestly, thank you for that.
Yeah, 9th grade bio.
Yeah.
So, do you remember what I said? Do you remember like the explanation I gave?
Yeah, I remember you said it in a way that, was not too complicated for me, but it was just like, that a man has a penis and a woman has a vagina, like, and then you were like, what? And then you were such a teacher. You were like, what do you think happens? Like, think about the shapes of these things. What happens next? Where would something go? And I was like, you had to spoon feed it to me.
Oh my God, that's so teacher of me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you used like a donut and a banana as a reference to like help it simplify. Like, there's a hole in this donut and there's a banana. If I were to put these two together, where would they go? Making me figure it out.
Anyway, we get like a transition, but we cut back into the Matthews living room. But it's the following morning. And Alan is asleep on the couch and Amy comes running down. Alan, it's 7 a.m. Where's Cory? Alan goes upstairs to look. Then we cut to the high school and the janitor comes and gets Feeney and brings him into the editing room where they see Cory and Topanga sleeping on the floor.
And touching a little bit.
Yeah. Topanga's leg is like over Cory's legs.
Mm-hmm.
And the janitor is like, I tried poking them with my mop. Nothing. You want me to spill some ammonia on their heads? Feeney just goes, ahem. Cory's like, 5 more minutes, Mom. And Feeney goes, good morning, sunshine. Breakfast is on the table.
That was his best impersonation of Amy.
Today, we're having a big bowl of sugar frosted. You've got a lot of explaining to do. Cory and Topanga just exchange terrified glances. And then we're in Feeney's office, and Cory and Topanga are sitting there. They both look a little disheveled. Feeney's on the phone with Amy. And he's like, yes, they're both fine, Amy. Now, be patient. You'll have your chance with them after I've had mine. And Cory's like, Mr. Feeney, I gotta go shower. If you don't let me go home, I'm gonna be late for school. Feeney just goes, sit. Now, the two of you spent the night unsupervised on school property. Cory's like, oh, Mr. Feeney, what do you think happened? Oh my God. And Topanga goes, Mr. Feeney, nothing happened. How could you think that? We're totally innocent. Tell him, Cory. Cory just goes, oh my God. And Feeney says, serious violations like this call for swift, decisive action. And then he clearly looks unsure. And he's like, while I decide what that is, you're both dismissed for the rest of the day. And he waves them off. And Topanga comes back and she's like, Mr. Feeney. And he says, And she says, can we just keep this little incident between us? Feeney says, of course, Miss Lawrence. Totally hush hush. No one need know at all. And you can see, he's such a good actor. Like, you can see that he's like, oh God, this is such a complicated situation. And I feel for her. And I know they didn't do anything, but like, I kind of have to punish them. But, like, he's struggling. Mm-hmm. And I love that because he should, because this is complicated. I don't know what I would do if I were him either.
I would probably do the same thing, like silently punish them because they obviously can't do that. But also I wouldn't want the rumor to go around that they had sex. I don't want anybody getting any ideas,
But how would you say, like, that's unrealistic. You can't silently punish them. Everybody talks, kids talk, they'll know. If they're suspended, it's why aren't they here? Did you hear they got suspended? Why? So what do you do?
Probably detention. I don't know. I'm not a principal.
There's like no way to do it. It's so hard. We just have a talk with them. Like, we have a therapy session kind of talk. Yeah. And then nothing happens. There's like no consequence. Then you have kids who learn quickly that there are no consequences, that it'll just be you'll have a talking to and that nothing happens.
Yeah. So you need a little bit of a discipline there.
You do.
You need to like have those boundaries.
I know. Cory and Topanga enter the hallway, and there's a rousing cheer of applause from the students. Topanga looks confused. Cory looks a little more happy about it, but also still a little confused. And he says, what's going on? And Sean says, you are a god. And Cory goes, what are you talking about? And Sean says, like you don't know. Like you didn't spend the night with Topanga. And Cory says, all we did was edit. And Sean says, hey, you call it what you want, but you are the man. Cory says, I am not the man. And Harley enters with Joey the rat. And Harley points to Cory and he goes, there's the man. There he is, barely 3 feet high. I mean, not much to look at, but inside there lurks a little Harley Kiner. And Joey says, so Matthews, come on, tell the truth now. Did you sleep with her? Did you sleep with Topanga? And Cory's like, well, that's a very private, personal, intimate question. And Harley interrupts and says, hey, are you the man or are you just you? And Cory looks around at everyone and he looks at Topanga. And he says, I guess I'm the man. Jerk.
Also, very interesting choice of words from Harley saying, are you the man or are you just you? Cory's constant fight within himself. Do I be myself or do I try to be something I'm not?
Yep. See, the Odyssey, that episode, he came around to being himself. He was like, I'm just me. And now he's experimenting with, what if I'm not me?
Yeah, he's wearing the disguise of being the man who...
Exactly.
Right, who has sex.
Harley's like, come on, let's commemorate this occasion. And Joey puts a spray paint can in Harley's hand. And I guess they're going to go like spray paint the editing room to mark it as like a space in which sex happened. Feeney walks over and Turner says, this is not what I had in mind. And Feeney says, come here. And he like summons him with his fingers. And Feeney says, so, Mr. Turner, your little project seems to have spiraled totally out of control. Who could have possibly foreseen that? And Turner says, George, I think we both know what happened here. And Feeney says, yes, you have proven that our attitudes about sex have not changed for 400 years. And a rumor can still destroy a young girl's reputation. I appreciated that line. I wished that the episode had gone further. Mm-hmm. I wish that Turner, Alan, Feeney, Cory, anyone, Topanga herself, I'll take it, someone, but I wish it was a man, had said something that confirmed that that's problematic.
Yep.
That's what Turner should be teaching. That's the point of teaching. Mm-hmm. Turner says rumors can only exist when things aren't out in the open. I was trying to get them to move from rumors and secrets to honest, open discussion. And Feeney says, you gave them an assignment about sex and then you left them unsupervised. And then the janitor enters and Turner says, yes, because I trust them. And Feeney says, and was your trust justified? And Turner says, the assignment isn't in yet. And Feeney says, well, it was a terrible idea and I should have nipped it in the bud. And then janitor Bud says, what? And Feeney says, not you. So then we're in the Matthews kitchen and Cory's sitting at the kitchen table reading Much Ado About Nothing. Also, like, I kind of wish they were doing the Scarlet Letter instead of Much Ado for this episode. I just felt like it would have fit a little bit better because they actually didn't go down the road of how hypocritical and terrible it is that Topanga has to worry and Cory doesn't. So Much Ado actually is the right piece of literature because the male perspective is the dominant one in that play as well.
You're right, because like Easy A actually addresses that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In an interesting way.
So Sean comes into the Matthews kitchen and says, came down hard on you? And Cory says, my kids are grounded. Sean says, listen, think you could sneak out for about a half an hour? Cory goes, what, are you kidding? I'm under 24-hour watch. Sean goes, man, everybody's waiting for you down at Chubby's. I'm telling you, you are a god. Alan walks in. And I got so excited when I saw Alan. I was like, oh, we're going to get a good conversation. Man to boys. He's going to put them in their place. He's going to say something. And he just says, why is that, Sean? Why is my son so godlike and popular? Actually, at that point, I was like, yes, I was so excited. And then Sean goes, because people have finally begun to realize how well brought up he is. Alan just goes, that the best you can do? Sean says, yeah, well, my mom smoked while she was pregnant. And Alan says, go home. And Sean gets off easy, and I was not happy about that. I wished that Sean had gotten more from Alan. And then Alan circles behind Cory and says, okay, Mr. Popular, you're on. And Cory says, look, Dad, a lot of people at school have this wacky idea that more happened between me and Topanga than happened between me and Topanga. And Alan says, what do they think? And Cory says, they kind of think I slept with her. And Alan says, why do they think that? And Cory says, because technically I did. And Alan says, and technically you didn't bother to clear up this misconception? Cory says, Dad, they think I'm somebody now. Guys who used to beat me up wanted to have their pictures taken with me. That is where a parent should interject and say, let's unpack that.
Yep.
Let's unpack not only your relationship with sex, but their relationship with sex. Mm-hmm. And let's figure out exactly how we can improve as a society, because that's disgusting. Mm-hmm. To want to take a picture with a boy because he had sex with a girl, but that's not the way that, like, oh God, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to begin with this. Like, let's humanize Topanga. That's where I would be with this as a parent. She's just a pawn in your game to meet some social benchmark, and that for you to use her to meet that social benchmark means that you get to become a celebrity in the school and everybody wants to take your picture. What is that? Where does that leave her? What is her role in this? The person to be used? So nobody wants a picture with her? Like, and also, what does this mean about sex and what it actually is for? Is it for social credit? Like, there's so many interesting conversations that could have come about here between a parent and a son that could have been really groundbreaking for television. And I get it. It's a lot of pressure for writers to actually have them have a conversation about this stuff on TV and, to say the right thing and to send the right message. But I just feel like the show is already taking so many risks that I'm like, here's another one, I don't know. So Amy enters at that point and she says, Cory, Topanga's here to see you. She's waiting in the living room. Cory says, oh, okay. Could you tell her I'm not here? And Amy goes, oh, of course. That would be the right thing to do. And then she calls Topanga into the kitchen. She says, Topanga, he's in here. Topanga enters and Alan says, son, if we stayed, would it be any easier for you? And Cory's like, yeah, it would. And Alan and Amy exit.
They literally just leave. That was funny.
I didn't like it as an adult now.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. Like they should be what's the word? They should be coaching this conversation.
Yes.
And
it wasn't fair to say, Topanga, you're the victim in this, and also now you need to fix it and we're not even going to help you. Not cool. Like, and they sent Topanga in to talk to their son, who they knew had not made any progress in his own understanding of this stuff. Like, if Alan had a conversation with Cory and then prepared him to have a healthy conversation with Topanga, having unpacked his own problematic psyche, then I would have been like, okay. But they sent him in to talk to her. Like, they sent her into the bullpen, basically, like, you deal with our son.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's your responsibility to deal with your son. Like, this poor girl's already been through enough. Don't make her do this now. So Cory just says, hey, Topanga, how you doing? And Topanga says, not great, which I liked. I said, good. Good for you. And she says, but I hear you're doing pretty good. And Cory says, look, people are going to talk, but that's all it is. Just talk. And immediately I was like, oh my God, of course. Yeah, because you're the one who's receiving the positive energy from this whole situation. You don't have to deal with what she's dealing with. So it's easy for you to say, you just have to, it's just talk.
Or you're not in any real danger here.
Exactly. He says, and in a few days, they're talking about something else. It'll be like this never happened, right? And that's when Topanga says, you want me, Cory? So that's why I was unsatisfied with this, because I just felt like there were so many more things that needed to be said. And so I was like, this is how, again, I don't hate this, but I just didn't think this was what we needed. She goes, you want me, Cory? And she steps closer to him and he goes, what? And she goes, you heard me. You want me? Take me. And she opens her arms out. Everybody thinks you did it already, so go ahead and do it. Cory's like, come on, Topanga, stop. Topanga says, what's the matter, Cory? Aren't you the man? Cory says, look, I just said what I said because everyone wanted me to say it. Topanga says, well, you know what I want? I want my good name back. I just, again, not primed and ready for her to say that because she hadn't critiqued the system, which is what her character would have done by now.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is her name not good?
Yeah. I think I do commend the show for being really very realistic. It's brutally realistic, but it doesn't do much work to change the problematic things. And this is like Exhibit A. Cory makes some joke like, oh, well, some people might argue that Topanga's not the best name to begin with. Cool. Adding insult to injury, Cory, nice. Now you're making fun of her name. So Topanga says, you know what I mean, Cory. And I hope you know how I feel. I feel like you used to be a good friend. And now, I don't know what you are. But I don't like you. And she leaves. So we're in Turner's class and it's presentation day. So they're going to watch all the videos that they made. And the first video they're going to watch is Cory and Topanga's.
I'm starting to suspect it's the only video that's being presented.
Certainly the only ones who got it edited.
Also, like, there were many people in that classroom outside of students. Like, why did everybody, like, all the faculty flock to the classroom to watch this?
I will say that was a little realistic. Like, I think if a teacher does do a cool project like that,
teachers
it
will
is
come
common
in.
for other teachers to come in, especially if they're on like preps or breaks. So
I don't remember that happening, but maybe it did.
Feeney walks in as Turner's about to put the tape in and says, Turner, a word. And Turner says, all right, class. Mr. Feeney's of the opinion that our discussions about sex and love and gossip and slander can only lead to more sex and love and gossip and slander. And I have to say, so far, he's right. Now, I've not seen this tape, but I hope my trust has not been misplaced in you guys. Has it? Topanga says, why don't you ask him? And Turner says, Matthews. And Cory says, I think if we don't watch it, we'll never know anything. And Turner says to Feeney, my student says we should show it. And Feeney looks to Cory and says, well, then perhaps we should. This is crazy. I don't even show my class YouTube videos that I haven't watched in full.
Yeah.
I would never.
Yeah. What if it's porn? What if they prank everybody and they're like, I'm actually going to show you porn right now. Like, what? Yeah. Immediately fired.
It could be so many things. Oh my God. Immediately fired. Turns out Cory had edited together all the interviews they'd done earlier, so it had a pretty positive message. So we see Topanga saying, what's the most important advice you have for teenagers about sex? And it cuts to Feeney saying, be careful with that valuable equipment.
That was great.
Feeney in the back is like cheap editing trick. And then we see Topanga go, I think sex is part of a special kind of love that you feel for a very special person. And then Turner says, love is the most important thing in the world, Matthews. And love is the only thing that makes sex worth having. And then Topanga is saying, sex is a part of a special kind of love. And then Sean is saying, love is the most amazing, rare, and precious thing in the whole world. And then Topanga says, that you feel for a very special person. And then we get Cory on screen. And he's saying, hi, look, I didn't want to be in this documentary because I didn't have that much to say about sex at all. Okay, so he does say sex. He says it here. And the reason I don't have that much to say about sex is because I don't have a lot of experience in that area. Some people think I do, but I don't. And if I let people think that I had some experience with someone, well, it really isn't fair to that person that I didn't have that experience with. And Feeney says to Turner, well, perhaps this project is going to serve some purpose after all. I'm shocked. Turner says, me too. And Cory says, so I'd like to say I'm sorry to that person, and I should have acted more mature. Maybe we haven't come as far as we'd like to think in the last 400 years. And then he's like, okay, Sean, cut the camera. And Sean's like, all right, but now tell her how much you love her. And Cory's like, shut up, I do not. And he's like, then why would you do this for her if you don't love her? And Cory says, because she's my friend. And then Sean's making like kissy noises, and then it ends. And then Topanga turns to Cory, and Cory says friend, and Topanga says friend, and they shake hands.
I thought that was nice. I thought that needed to happen. Him publicly addressing the situation was very Cory of him.
Yeah.
And that was very sweet.
I appreciated that we had the line again about how we haven't come so far in the past 400 years.
Agree.
I
Yep.
felt like, obviously I've been saying this, I just wish it was pushed a little further, but it was good. And I'm glad he said that.
What do you think about the messaging that was given in general as far as like the good way to think about sex? I'm using air quotes again. That sex is reserved for a relationship that you feel very strongly about. Not being super clear that it should be between like you and somebody you're married to, but like somebody you have a very special, real relationship to is when you have sex, and that's when it's the most meaningful. In general, I think that's a great advice, but I'm curious your perspective on if that's the right messaging to give kids.
My real, true, personal opinion for my kids that I don't have
For kids in
is
general.
no, it's different. That's why I'm
Okay.
saying this. It's
Okay.
I would give different advice to someone who wasn't my kid to someone who is my kid.
Mm-hmm.
My advice to someone who isn't my kid is it just you need make sure it's safe, make sure that you feel comfortable with that person, like it's mutually safe and enjoyable and you're protected. Obviously use protection, but I do think that in my heart, in my deep heart, I would like their first time to be special and to
Mm-hmm.
be with someone that they do actually care a lot about, and that it's like a special moment
Mm-hmm.
of like diving deeper into their intimacy and their and their connection with one another. Do I think that that means they're going to be with that person for the rest of their life, or do I want the messaging to be like you have to now marry them or stay with them forever? No, but I do want them to feel like it was just right and good.
Yeah, I think my take on it is if I was talking to younger kids about it, I would lean more towards the romanticism of it and saying, like, you should, if you're going to do it, it should be with somebody that you love and trust, because I feel like that's more top of mind than the physical aspect of it. That comes a bit later. So I think kind of having them kind of think about that early of like, this is a big deal. You should think about doing it with the right person and being safe. All of those things is great. And then, of course, not shaming them for it. Because I think, like, the idea for me of having sex has always been tied to doing it with the right person. That's always been clear to me. But the shame of doing it because of like just the purity culture of it all really hindered me from having an experience that was truly pleasant. So it's like, how do you have the right conversation with kids on like being safe, making sure there's consent there, doing it with the right person without having the shame involved?
So we get a tag. Harley's like being interviewed, and he's just saying, when we read these books in class, it seems to me that the authors construct scenes of love which to me do not seem based in reality. So Cory asks, well, what's your idea of reality? And Harley says, a moonlit night, the backseat of my Chevy Impala, and the lilt of some sweet girl's voice whispering in my ear, hey, you're crushing my cigarettes. That's love. Kind of a weird tag.
We were talking about the word of the day, and I didn't have a specific word that stood out, but I guess the only one that did stand out was the word slander. I kind of like that word. It's kind of
It's a good
sexy.
word.
It also is a word that sounds like what it is.
You're so right. I love when a word sounds like what it is. I like the word monogamous.
Monogamous.
Monogamous. Say it.
Monogamous. You're right. It is
Right?
nice. Yeah.
It's so fun to say. Monogamous. So that's my word, monogamous, for the sound.
I think my takeaways for this are how I think about having conversations with younger people about sex and love. Um, you probably will have a lot more opportunity as a teacher than I will, but just thinking about if I come into those situations, how to think about it. I think the way that I'll approach it is the obvious things such as consent, safety is key. Not feeling shame, especially focusing on traditionally women, of what history has told us to feel about women having sex versus men having sex. And I think for me it'll be important to stress that, like, ideally it should be with somebody that you really care about, but also it's a beautiful thing that can be emotional or physical. maybe that part is a conversation for when you're older, but I think like those three things are very key.
Great. I think that's beautiful. Yeah, if anything, this episode just makes me think my instinct to read, for example, The House of the Spirits is right. They are at the right age to read about sex, and we do actually need to have space for them to talk about it. So while I would never go as far as Turner's going with it, I do agree with his point that it is antiquated to just not address it and act like it's not happening, because it is. Thank you all for listening. Please rate and review us if you like what you heard. 5-star. Follow us at Boy Meets Wine Podcast. The name of the wine we had today was Ruza Rose, R-U-Z-A. Theme song credit goes to Julia Rosa. And next week's episode is Season 2, Episode 8, entitled Band on the Run. Band on the Run. Cory discovers that Topanga still likes him. Bye!